Hello, let's meet the contenders in this battle royale of economic theories from John Maynard Keynes versus F.A. Hayek, Frederick August Hayek. John Maynard Keynes was the first Baron Keynes, was a British economist whose ideas have profoundly affected the theory and practice of modern macroeconomics. He was the father of modern macroeconomics, as well as the economic policies of governments. He greatly refined earlier work on the causes of business cycles and advocated the use of fiscal and monetary measures to mitigate the adverse effects of economic recessions and depressions. His ideas are the basis of the school of thought known as Keynesian economics, as well as its various offshoots. In the 1930s, Keynes spearheaded a revolution in economic thinking, overturning the older ideas of neoclassical economics that held that free markets would, in the short to medium term, automatically provide full employment, as long as workers were flexible in their wage demands. Keynes instead argued that the aggregate demand determined the overall level of economic activity, and that inadequate aggregate demand could lead to prolonged periods of high unemployment. Following the outbreak of World War II, Keynes' ideas concerning economic policy were adopted by Western economies. During the 1950s and 60s, the success of Keynesian economics resulted in almost all capitalist governments adopting its policy recommendations, promoting the cause of social liberalism. This was called the Keynesian consensus. Keynes' influence waned in the 1970s, partly as a result of problems that began to afflict the Anglo-American economies from the start of the decade, and partly because of critiques from Milton Friedman and other economists who were pessimistic about the ability of governments to regulate the business cycle with fiscal policy. However, the advent of the global financial crisis in 2007 has caused a resurgence in Keynesian thought. Paul Krugman is one of the people behind this, I think. Keynesian economics has provided the theoretical underpinning for economic policies undertaken in response to the crisis by Presidents George W. Bush Jr. and Barack Obama of the United States, Prime Minister Gordon Brown of the United Kingdom, and other global leaders. Keynes is widely considered to be the founders of modern macroeconomics and to be the most influential economist of the 20th century. In 1999, Times magazine included Keynes in their list of 100 most important influential people of the 20th century, commenting that his radical ideas that government could spend money they didn't have may have saved capitalism. In addition to being an economist, Keynes was also a civil servant, a director of the Bank of England, which was nationalised under the Labour government in 1946, a patron of the arts and an art collector, and part of the Bloomsbury group of intellectuals, an advisor to several charitable trusts, a writer, a private investor, and a farmer. In 1925, he married Russian ballerina Linda Loprolikov and had no children. Let's see Frederick von Hayek. Frederick von Hayek, born in Austro-Hungary as Frederick August von Hayek, was an economist and philosopher best known for his defence of classical liberalism and the free market capitalism against socialist and collectivist thought. He is considered one of the most important economists and political philosophers of the 20th century, winning the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences in 1974, along with his mentor Ludwig von Mises. He was an important contributor to the Austrian school of political economy. Hayek's account of the changing prices communicating signals to which individuals are able to coordinate their plans is widely regarded as an important achievement in economics. Hayek also provided significant work in the fields of system thinking, jurisprudence and neuroscience, and the history of ideas. Hayek served in World War One and said that his experience in the war and his desire to help avoid the mistakes that led to the war led him to his career in economics. He took his first position in 1927, and the same year that Joseph Stalin consolidated his power in the Soviet Union by expelling Leon Trotsky from the Communist Party. Fascism, or National Socialism, as it should be known, was at the same time rising in Germany and Italy. Additionally, the Great Depression, began in 1929 at the very start of Hayek's career. In 1974, Hayek shared the Nobel Prize in Economics with Swedish economist Gunnar Myrdal for his pioneering work in the theory of money and economic fluctuations, and his penetrating analysis of the interdependence of economic, social and institutional phenomena. He also received the US Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1991 from George Bush Sr. Hayek lived in Austria, Great Britain, the United States and Germany, and became a British subject in 1938. He spent most of his academic life at the London School of Economics and the University of Chicago, therefore of the Chicago School, the same as Milton Friedman, and the University of Freiburg. So there you have the contenders. But what were their ideals? Well, Keynes believed that by stimulating the monetary supply, the money supply, in times of low economic demand, low aggregate demand, you could stimulate the economy and produce a positive multiplier effect, which would get the economy going. He did not believe in sticky wages as which was targeted by later Keynesian economists. They added that on to Keynes's general theory in their subsequent theories. But he did not believe that prices were fixed. Prices of wage labour were fixed either. They would move slower than the market signals that they were getting from the changing prices of others, because people wanted to hold on to their wage more than they did want to consume any new products that was which with a change in price. That will be the change in the general amount of prices, i.e. inflation. So you would have to affect inflation by the money supply. Friedrich von Hayek believed that that prices were signals to perfectly rational consumers and citizens within an economy, and this meant that the price was a signal, and thus they would adapt their behaviour to that price. But the problem is with both of these theories is they have paradoxes. They both rely on human psychology, and human psychology can be affected by, for instance, psychoanalysis of consumer behaviour and the problems of built-in redundancy to goods such as cars, fridges, which are developed from psychoanalysis to get you to buy stuff quicker than you would do because the stuff is breaking, thus built-in redundancy. They also didn't tackle, neither Keynes nor Friedrich von Hayek tackled the problem within capitalism of unattainable surplus, whereas surplus is created by capitalism, but people cannot have the means to buy those houses which may be abandoned. There are 1 million abandoned houses in Great Britain, for instance, and so there needs to be another agent. Perhaps Keynes would say the state, in the social democracy, in the social market, needs to step in, nationalise the houses, the housing industry, so that everybody gets a house, and thus the unattainable surplus is reduced.